Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn. I run the services at MedCommsNetworking.com, where you'll find information, resources, activity, events for people who work in and around medical communications, medical education, medical publishing, and associated businesses. And one of the things we do as a spin-off service at first medcommsjob.com is provide lots of information specifically for people who are wanting to come into the business and get a job in medcoms. What we're doing here is we're addressing some of the sort of frequently asked questions from people who are looking for those jobs. And I've got a couple of people who are specialists in medcoms, have experience in medcoms. I'm going to ask for their perspective on the question, which is, how do I stand out when developing my CV and cover letter? Amelia, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, so the business of medical communications is all about communication and about your editorial skills. So it's a real deal breaker when you're putting together your CV. If you've got bad formatting issues, if you've got editorial mistakes and typos, I think the first thing to say is please check through your CV before you submit it to an agency to make sure that you're not missing out from very easy mistakes. The other point is the level of detail. So, I think probably everybody's heard that CVs are read in a few seconds and then put to one side. So try and get your key points across quickly, 2, maybe 3 pages at the maximum, but particularly if you've had a long academic background, you don't want to read 8 pages of all of the publications that you've ever done. Also thinking about what's important in medcoms and your transferable skills. You don't want to see details of the list of publications, but also all of your laboratory experiments and specialist skills and things like that, because it's just not applicable. So think about the things that are important to medical communications, what writing experience you've got, what experience of, leading projects, organizing events, managing your time, that sort of thing, interacting with other people and communicating, adapting your style of communication and writing. All of that's really important to get across in your CV.
Yeah, and I think to add to Amelia's point there, I think keeping the CV succinct and tends to be no longer than 2 pages makes it nice and readable for the audience and the potential employer that you're looking to apply to. I've seen some really nice examples of CVs that have had some nice data visualization on there, or just something to make them stand out from the rest. But I think it's key if, depending on what background you're coming from, that you just focus on those transferable skills. If you're transferring industries or coming at it completely new, highlight that definitely in the CV.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that you might be asked to submit alongside the CV is a cover letter. And I'd say probably even if you're not asked for it, it's still a good idea to do it. And that, if you're going into a writing role particularly, is almost a mini writing test. So that's the first opportunity that a company is going to get to see your kind of continuous writing skills. So again, be really careful editorially, make sure you check it through, and, make sure you're giving the company a good insight into yourself, your expertise, but also, a bit about you as well.
And I think to Amelia's point there as well, like the cover letter is key. First impressions absolutely count. It really gives the reader an insight into the person that's applying for the role, and it boosts your chances of an interview and gives you that opportunity to really sell yourself. Get in there what it is that's attracting you to medcoms, show that you've done some research and why this is the industry for you, because that really will kind of boost your chances of getting that interview and then being able to do that in person.
Okay. Just pick up a couple of questions that we've actually had a couple of questions sent in, but there's a couple of obvious ones or specific ones in terms of like picture versus no picture on a CV, for instance. What's your view on that?
I think it's personal preference. I don't think anybody's going to be looking to interview based on whether there's a picture on there or not. I think at the end of the day, you'll be interviewed in person if you're successful. But it's a nice touch. And I think, yeah, it does go down to personal preference as to whether you want to include it or not.
Okay, and there are different camps of thought on that one, so it's just worth maybe having a think about that. I mean, a lesson I was always told, the first paragraph right at the top of the page, on the first page of the CV sort of thing, that's what you want to grab the attention with. And again, you're coming to medcoms communications business, you're going to make a very quick decision when you look at a CV and you see that opening paragraph. Have they succinctly said why you want to talk to me? And something else that I always hear from people talking is, don't tell us why you want to leave your previous job. Tell us why you want to join us. which means you need to do a bit of research and think about us and come at us with what we want, sort of thing. So that's a little bit of a mindset thing. I think somebody's just put in a comment here, which I was going to pick up on. We talk about 2 pages. I know there's slightly different camps on this one as well, but let's take the 2-page type idea. And we are talking in our business often about academics coming in, and they might have quite a long list of publications. So there's no harm in adding a link to a list of publications, isn't it? And you can choose to go back and look at those, or you might want to just highlight 1 or 2. But what you don't want is an academic CV basically presented to you.
And I think it's the point in including them, so that the point should be to show that you've got relevant experience of doing that, because one of the types of projects that we work on is publications, so that's very relevant. But the other part would be to highlight your therapy area experience, particularly if you know that the agency you're applying to works in neurology and you've got lots of relevant publications, but they don't need to see 20 publications to make that assessment.
On that point, I suppose I would counter it slightly and say it's unlikely. Is it unlikely that you're going to come into an agency with a specialist background in, I don't know, diabetes, and go onto the diabetes account sort of thing? It's more likely that you will come in and find yourself working on, I don't know, skin disease or something. Because what actually happens in MedComms, by and large, is that you're taking people with those skills and that you're applying it to a sort of new therapy area.
So I think it's very serendipitous if you happen to, and that's great. That could also make the deal if they're looking for somebody with particular therapy experience. But you need to be flexible to be happy to work on multiple therapy areas.
Yeah, and indeed, that's what most if we're talking about medical writers, but generally anybody, that's one of the things that comes across from people who work in MedComms, is they like the fact that they're working on a variety of topics and so on. So that all makes sense. I'm going to throw a question at you. I don't know what the answer is. Have you seen any really creative ways to present a CV? Very unfair question, probably.
I think I've seen some nice examples of, like I mentioned, where they've actually taken the information and done a really nicely designed one. I think the content's key, but the design obviously attracts the eye and makes you think, oh, someone's actually taken a bit of time to make this stand out from the rest. But as long as the content sort of marries up with that, and the experience is there, then that's it. It's really nice to kind of do that and sell yourself. It is an opportunity to do it.
And I've seen infographics and things being used quite well, I must admit. So I mean, again, I would just be a little bit careful, because the message isn't you need to be an amazing visual infographic type person to get a job, but actually if you do it nicely, it can help. But it comes back to, I think Amelia saying, the content's the important thing. And a question went through my head there and popped out the other side, sorry, so I might have to lose that one. I think no, it's gone. That's a bit embarrassing. There was a question which I wanted to ask you and I've forgotten what it was. Okay, what about, so anything else on the sort of the developing a CV? Oh, I think what I was going to say was, sorry, attention to detail. Let's make the point. Really important point. I'm glad I just pulled that from the back of my brain, but it's a really important point. And people can be, it's a bit cliche, but actually what you guys are looking for is attention to detail. And that applies to the email that you're sent, the covering letter, the CV, the everything. And if they went, I don't know, Dear Jane or something to Jill, you'd just immediately go, well, they can't even get my name right, sort of thing. If they spell things wrong, if they whatever, attention to detail is hugely important. And it's really, really important that and again, I think Amelia said that, really think and double check and check what you're doing before you send anything.
It's not an easy thing to do. It takes time and you need to, leave things, sleep on it, come back to it. But it's a very easy rejection. When you look at a CV and you see typos in it, it's very easy to just put that in the bin.
Exactly. And it can be very, very unfair, but it's not like there aren't lots of CVs coming into it, to be blunt. This is quite a competitive business to get into. So you're going to be making some very quick decisions. And if it looks like someone hasn't really quite paid attention or understood what's going on, it's very easy to say, no, sorry. Okay, so these are sorts of things people need to think about. So, okay, I think that's been really interesting just to get your insights on that. So I'm going to say thank you very much. And remind people that at firstmedcommsjob.com you can find all sorts of information, insights about getting a job in MedComms. Hopefully we've helped. You guys, I know, will be very happy to hear from people. LinkedIn is a very easy way of doing it. I'm very happy to hear from people. So on that note, can I say a big thank you, and we'll just wave and say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.